Good morning. I'm Congressman John Ratcliffe, and I have the great privilege of representing the 4th Congressional District of Texas. Before coming to Congress, I was a United States Attorney and a federal terrorism prosecutor, and in both of those roles, I took an oath to support and defend and bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution. When I got elected to Congress, I took the very same oath. We all did. But if you look at the current state of affairs in Washington right now, we're not supporting or defending much of what the framers outlined in our Constitution. Instead of 3 co-equal branches of government, each checking the authority of the others to advance the will of the American people, we're witnesses to, or perhaps at times accomplices to, the rise of an almighty administrative state where unelected bureaucrats are wielding de facto lawmaking authority. So as a member of the House Judiciary Committee with the strong support of Chairman Goodlatte, I've had the opportunity to introduce the Separation of Powers Restoration Act, a bill which will prevent unelected agency bureaucrats from writing and interpreting the very same laws they are responsible for enforcing. And in the process of stopping them, we can ensure that our government gets back to working for the people, not the other way around. So I'm grateful to Speaker Ryan and all of the Republican leaders for allowing this bill to be taken up by House Republicans this week as one of our first actions to advance the fight for a better way when it comes to defending our Constitution. So I thank you all, thank you, and with that I'll yield to the Speaker.
Morning, everybody. Today we are releasing the 5th plank of our Better Way policy agenda, a concrete plan to not just repeal but also to replace Obamacare. I look forward to talking more about that in an event later on today. Already, we have introduced a better way to lift people out of poverty, a better national security plan to keep Americans safe, a better way to grow the economy, and a better way to preserve our system of self-government. All of these plans can be found at better.gop. It is this last plan, our plan to restore the Constitution, that is perhaps the most important one of them all. It is fundamental because this plan is a plan that ensures that we have a government that is actually accountable to the people. It ensures that our elected representatives who face the voters are the ones who are actually writing the laws we live under. Do we not want to have a government that is accountable to us, where we, through our elected representatives, are the ones actually writing the laws that govern our country and govern ourselves? And while a better way is what we strive to enact under a Republican president, we are taking steps right now to advance these ideas. The Separation of Powers Restoration Act that John Ratcliffe just talked about is a major part of our constitutional plan, and we're bringing it to the floor right now. For too long, the court has given deference to the executive branch in interpreting laws, and the deference empowers nameless, faceless, unaccountable bureaucrats to rewrite laws and attach meaning that was never Congress's intent. We have seen rise of this 4th branch of government of unelected bureaucrats writing our laws. We're going to reclaim these powers not on behalf of Republicans, not on behalf of Democrats, but on behalf of the citizens of this country. With this legislation, we are clamping down on this practice, and we're taking a first step toward restoring power to the Congress, and more importantly, to the voters who sent us here. For more information on this, please go to better.gop.
I want to give a few quick points on a few items we're working on first when it comes to conference. Now that the Senate has acted and named conferees to the opioid, we're moving forward with the conference on opioids. Get that done as soon as possible. Continue to meet in conference when it comes to Zika. As soon as that is finished up, we will bring that to the floor as soon as possible. Next, I want to highlight what's on the floor. You heard the speaker talking about a better way. You've watched week after week the rollout. One of the cornerstones of what we've talked about is Article 1, empowering the individuals across this country to be able to make decisions, rolling back where agencies have become legislators. When you just listen to a Congress member, Radcliffe, a former U.S. attorney, understands this from many different points of view, but he was able to move a bill already onto the floor. And if you watch his work, he's got 3 bills on the floor this week, dealing with cybersecurity, dealing with empowering and rolling back the voice of regulation, but also from the voice of the people have to have a say in the process. So I think these are two very strong points of what to do, and I want to congratulate him on the work that he's done in Congress in such a short amount of time, making a difference.
I too want to thank John Ratcliffe for his hard work in bringing an important bill that helps restore the balance of powers. When you have unelected bureaucrats who are both writing, interpreting, and enforcing the laws, it goes against all the basic fundamental principles that we believe in, and it's time to restore that balance of power and take more power away from unelected bureaucrats who are not accountable and restore it back to the elected representatives of the people who are held accountable every 2 years. There are a couple of other bills that we're moving forward on this week. One really important bill is a financial services appropriations bill. And this bill is important because it truly reins in an agency that we've identified through our oversight is out of control, and that's the IRS. With over $230 million of cuts to the IRS, it brings them down to levels that they were at before President Obama took office. But it also puts some real protections for taxpayers in place. One thing it does is it stops the Obama administration from targeting American citizens based on their political views. This is something we exposed through our oversight here in this House majority, something that's been disgraceful, that's been going on for years here in this administration through the IRS. We block that specifically in our bill. We also block the FCC, for example, from putting forth regulations that are writing new law, things like net neutrality. And then we, of course, have important life provisions, conscience protections, standing up for life. So this is going to be an important bill that we're going to move through, a lot of amendments on the floor, and then pass that through. And then finally, what the Speaker talked about, part of our agenda to continue to show the American people that there is a better way to get our economy moving, to put more power in the hands of people. We've seen with health care, over 5 million Americans have lost the good health care that they have and like. The president promised if you like what you have, you can keep it. Again, probably one of the most broken promises in political history. We restore that by putting patients and doctors back in charge of their health care decisions, by lowering costs, by focusing on increasing access, and allowing patients to choose their plans and take them with them. If you want to buy insurance across state lines, a common sense medical liability reform that will dramatically lower cost and stop people from having to go get tests taken that they don't even need just out of fear of a frivolous lawsuit. So these are things that are really important to restoring a healthcare marketplace that works for families. In Louisiana alone next year, our constituents are facing over 30% increases in their healthcare premiums because of the costly mandates in Obamacare. It's time for a better way. Looking forward to that rollout later on this afternoon.
As we unveil the final components, healthcare and tax reform of our Better Way agenda, remember, at the end of the day, what we do is and always has to be about people. After all, we are the body that is closest to the people. We're the most accountable to them. We are their voice in government. And right now, there's a tangled web of complicated taxes, a one-size-fits-all approach to healthcare. And these are just two examples. Americans are frustrated, and they feel like their voices are not being heard. Our agenda is full of real, common-sense reforms, solutions that are going to empower students, patients, and small business owners all across this country so that they will feel secure in their lives and in their futures. Because policies from taxes to healthcare should start with people speaking through their elected representatives, not politically motivated bureaucrats in an agency. That's why I, too, am grateful for the leadership of Congressman John Ratcliffe on this important issue. His legislation, the Separation of Powers Restoration Act, is such an important step in Congress taking back its authority to do the people's work. We hear a lot about the Chevron decision. Simply put, it has led to the steady growth in increased government overreach. Representative Ratcliffe's bill overturns that decision and requires the courts to interpret laws instead of allowing unelected federal bureaucrats, in essence, to make the laws themselves. This is just the first of many examples of how we're already acting on our ideas in the Better Way. Our Better Way agenda is it's about real solutions that put American people back in control of their government so that the promise of America is never broken.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Good morning. There are over 20 million health savings accounts and flexible savings accounts in America, many of which have been used for years by folks to help pay for their medical expenses. However, under Obamacare, the law changed and required folks to get a prescription from their doctors to use their HSAs and FSAs for over-the-counter medications. The end result is families spending more money to see their doctor to get basic over-the-counter medication, and doctors spending valuable time prescribing cold medicine as more critical patients wait for attention. That's why this week the House is expected to vote on legislation that I introduced to make health care a little bit easier for Americans. The bill is H.R. 1270, the Restoring Access to Medication Act. It repeals a provision of the Affordable Care Act, preventing folks from using their HSAs and FSAs from when they purchase over-the-counter medications. The legislation is bipartisan, and it's based on common sense principles. It puts healthcare cost management back where it belongs, in the hands of the American people.
Questions? I can stick that if you want.
Susan Collins has a proposal related to the terrorism watch list after Orlando. Do you think that proposal has a chance to pass?
I'm not familiar with the details of it. We're waiting to see what the Senate does before proceeding. So we don't know what they're going to end up doing, and so we're just kind of waiting to see what they end up doing.
Donald Trump said to a group of evangelical leaders yesterday, "We don't know anything about Hillary in terms of religion. At least we had our guard up about Obama. We don't have that about Hillary. Does it worry you he's going about Hillary Clinton's religion?"
Next question. I got nothing for you today, man. Nice try.
As you're probably aware, this is a little arcane, but there's a provision, a Senate provision in the VA portion.
Oh, a policy question. Yes. Go ahead.
Providing in vitro fertilization treatments for veterans who have combat injuries to their sexual organs and other parts of their bodies that make it impossible for them to naturally conceive. And it's opposed by some of the more ardent pro-lifers in the conference because of the questions on these.
Yeah.
Where do you come out on this? Are you willing to support some sort of modified provision, even if it's opposed by?
This is one of the things that they're working out in the conference. They have not completed the conference report. We don't have anything to comment on it right now. I'm letting the conferees figure all of this out. So we're.
But it's opposed by the House right now.
It's
You're the leader of the House.
the conference.
You're probably gonna get-
I'm a leader of the House who's letting the Appropriations Committee negotiate this bill. So the appropriators are negotiating it in conference. We got nothing more to add right now until they have a package. I hope Congressman Fattah thinks about what the right thing to do is, and I will have more to say about this later on.
On the agenda, it's been noted that a lot of these ideas have shown up in previous documents, specifically with the healthcare stuff. A lot of that is actually in the budget. If you can't bring things like the budget to the floor, then what are the chances that bills implementing what you have in the agenda will be voted on and approved?
We're not going to repeal Obamacare when the current president of the United States is a guy named Obama. The purpose of this agenda is not to pass a law right now that we know won't go into law. The purposes of this agenda is to show a better way on the big issues of the day that's going to require a Republican president to sign into law. What we're laying out today is a first time in 6 years consensus by the Republicans in the House on what we replace Obamacare with. So sure, you're going to see some ideas that we've long been talking about. Lynn has been talking about health savings accounts. We've been working on health savings accounts since 2003. It was one of my amendments to the Medicare bill with Nancy Johnson and Bill Thomas back in those days. So there are some long-standing principles you will see advanced. But what you're seeing today is a consensus by House Republicans on the best way to replace Obamacare, and that is a very important achievement in and of itself. But more to the point, Jonathan, the goal of this is not to show that we can send a bill and watch it get vetoed by the president. The goal of this is to show the country a better way on the big issues of the day that can get into law in 2017 with a Republican president. Thank you.
already have that